the issues affecting Asia's animals and the stories of the people working on their behalf. We'll be taking you on a tour of what's been happening lately in the animal protection space around Asia and also bringing you updates from our huge network of animal protection organizations and our many working groups. Welcome to the Asia for Animals podcast.
Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of the AFA podcast. My name is Pavitra. I am a coordinator at the Capacity in Animal Protection Coalition at AFA, and I'm thrilled to bring you a special episode this week. Recently, I attended the Vegan India conference at Mumbai, India, an event that brought together passionate individuals, innovative businesses, and dedicated NGOs, all united by one common goal: promoting and advancing veganism in India. The conference was a vibrant hub of ideas, discussions, and inspiration, showcasing the incredible progress and potential of the vegan movement in India. So in today's episode, we thought we'll delve into the heart of the conference, featuring interviews with some of the vegan activists that I met there, as well as people from NGOs that are tirelessly working to make a difference. We'll hear their stories, learn about their initiatives, and gain insight into the challenges and triumphs of advocating for a vegan lifestyle here. So whether you're a long-term vegan, just starting your journey, or simply curious about the vegan movement in India, stay tuned because you're about to be inspired by the voices of those who are shaping the future of veganism here. What you'll hear next are parts that have been recorded at the conference itself. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the AFA podcast. Now, I know many of you have been dedicated to veganism for several years now. So, could you share some of the most significant changes and developments that you've observed in the vegan movement in India since you yourself made the transition? Maybe we can start with you, Naomi.
So I'm Naomi Prasad. I've been involved with the movement for, I think, 8-9 years now. I used to work in fashion. I used to have my own label and my own company. And for the first few years of my journey, I was some would call an apologetic vegan, but I don't see it that way. I was just sort of someone who was doing my own thing, and then found myself having to defend my choice at every dinner table, which led me to more research, and that kind of led me away from the fashion industry, more towards climate, the ethics of the animal agriculture industry, what have you. And I actually started mid-30s working as a volunteer and then worked my way up. So when I turned vegan, was a time when I'd go to restaurants and ask them if they had any vegan options. And they'd look at me very confused because they didn't know what vegan was. And for the first 5 years, I ate only home-cooked meals and lived kind of this almost hermetic life. And now all of a sudden, I'm spoiled for choice. So I can order food or I can go to any restaurant and find like vegan options. That is a welcome change. So from the business side, I see that the movement has been relatively successful in terms of at least pushing the vegan sort of movement forward in terms of creating options and what have you. From a activist or advocacy position, I see there's promise now with the Ahimsa Fellowship in trying to train up, activists to take a more strategic approach. When I turned vegan initially, I was kept it to myself, or sort of it was a personal choice. And then somewhere along the way, when I received pushback for being vegan, I saw myself getting very like verbally passionate and what have you. And I see that also today in many like new vegans. But then again, there's a lot that take a very different approach and they lead by example. So I see a lot of diversity in the type of activism that's happening, and it's all necessary. But also I see that now people are starting to take a strategic approach and sort of, take a more sort of intellectual approach to how they choose what narrative and how to sort of, approach or do their outreach. So I think that's the change.
Thank you so much, Naomi. So we also have with us Stuti today, who works with an organization called We the Free. So yeah, Stuti, if you could just give a quick overview of your work at We the Free and what you do in the movement.
So my name is Stuti, and I'm the Asia Regional Support Lead for We the Free. We the Free is an organization that supports grassroots activists and their efforts towards street activism. And We the Free provides resources, provides training, collaboration opportunities, equipment funding, etc. to volunteers, because we recognize that they are taking time from their daily lives to spread awareness. They are spending from their own pockets sometimes. So we want to make it easier, more accessible for them to be able to do these things.
That's amazing. Thanks, Stuti. So yeah, I think the same question to you. Have you seen any major shifts in perceptions around veganism in India over the years since the time you turned vegan?
Yeah, sure. And I think that's an interesting question, because when I went vegan, there was virtually nobody in my city that I knew of who even knew what the word vegan meant. And the only awareness was coming from the West, people who have, been somewhere foreign outside of India, and probably they came across the word. That is where people would come to know about the word vegan, and then they would talk about, oh yeah, I went here, there, and I knew somebody who was vegan, and that's what they were doing, etc. Over the years, one of the biggest shifts I've seen is that the movement has started becoming more internalized, more Indian, and you see people advocating for this is not a foreign movement. This is something which was in our roots as well. And people have started accepting that it does not come from a particular region, but it comes from within. It's a philosophy that each person can believe in. And as long as they believe in it, they could do it no matter where they were, regardless of any particular culture or region or anything else. And I think the second biggest change that I can see is in the amount of frequency of me hearing the word vegan, and that includes the number of people, that includes the number of products available, that includes the number of restaurants or hotels or cafes embracing the word vegan and providing options, or just people knowing about the word vegan. So that itself has increased quite a bit, and now we have so many brands who are into the plant-based food space, into plant-based material space, who are now we have some of the organizations who are donating like mechanical elephants to replace them in temples, which is also a breakthrough big time. So I think the movement has changed like a lot, and it has grown really fast, and I think most of it did happen after COVID. But it's still happy to see that so many people now know about veganism, and there are these groups in so many cities who solely work on spreading awareness so that more and more people can know about it as well.
Thanks, Stuti. And I absolutely agree. Awareness building, I think, still remains a cornerstone of the vegan movement in India. And one such organization that is particularly effective in this regard is Why We Care. And today we have the pleasure of speaking with Latika from Why We Care to share more about their impactful work. Over to you, Latika.
So myself, Latika, I have been vegan from last 5 years. And from past 4 years, I'm working with an NGO called Why We Care, which is based in Mumbai. And what we do is we spread awareness in a Hindi local language to spread education and make more people aware about the vegan and vegan lifestyle.
Thank you, Latika. So, given your extensive work on the ground, do you believe that the vegan movement in India has evolved significantly, and also has campaigning in Hindi made a substantial, impact on your efforts?
Yes, a lot. And I would say that the main and the secret ingredient is the local language. When we will say it's not veganism, but it's just ahimsa. When we say ahimsa, when we just say that veganism is equal to ahimsa, people understand it way more better. Yes, ahimsa is ahimsa parmo dharam. It is what it is. Like veganism is, that's it. We are the land of ahimsa, and we have been taught since our childhood that we have to be kind to each and every species, whether it's human or non-human animals.
That's such a beautiful way of putting it. For a lot of our listeners who don't know what ahimsa is, could you also give a quick translation as well?
Ahimsa means be compassionate, be loving to all the creatures, as I said, don't harm as far as possible. Don't harm any other species and be loving and be kind.
Thank you so much, Latika. I think that perfectly encapsulates the entire philosophy of veganism in itself. So thank you so much for that. So next up, we also have with us a very passionate vegan activist, Siddharth. Siddharth, if you could just quickly introduce yourself and also share with us some of the activities and initiatives that you undertake as part of your activism.
I'm Siddharth Tafaria, and I hail from Indore. I'm here for the conference. I wanted to connect with more vegans. It always helps in getting to know more things and different techniques that other activists use. So I would say it was a very fruitful event, and I'll take a lot of things from here in my activism to sharpen those and hone those skills that I'm using right now. So my activism has multiple facets, like online activism, where I write blogs, where I post my vlogs. I take part in street activism in Indore and in different parts. I help in organizing and coordinating events like Animal Rights March that we did in Indore. Also, I have taken the message of veganism and animal rights in more than 100 schools and more than 5,000 school students, which I feel are at that level where they're not that conditioned and they're more open to learning new things and understanding that the current scenario is not optimum. It's not very ethical what the status quo is happening. So that's why I'm targeting that audience which is more open, which is students and kids. So I feel they are more open. They ask genuine questions. They're more receptive. So yeah, I feel it is having an impact.
Wow, that's incredibly inspiring, and I think all the more commendable because you also have a full-time job and still taking out the time to reach out to the students and present on veganism. It takes a lot of effort, and you're still finding the time to do that. And I think all in all, it gives a lot of hope to the future of the movement in India on a whole. So, just coming back to you, Stuti, you said that you work with activists at We the Free, and we also have a lot of organizations in the AFA network who are very, volunteer driven and very activist driven. So, what are some of the things that, some effective tips that you have found helpful in keeping the activists engaged in the work?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I personally believe in, as well as that is in We the Free's philosophy, is to build relationships with people, make them feel valued, welcome, that they matter, because they actually do. And it is them who are running the movement on the forefront out there, So I think the best things to do would be to build really good, genuine, and lasting relationships with people, and just ensure that their work is getting all the support that they may require, especially if it is an organization, because they are going to be able to do it. As of now, they do it only whenever they are able to do it. So with support, it will increase even more, and that is something that they really need right now. And for organizations, I think it's also really vital to remain a little patient, because these things take time. There's a lot of trust that needs to be built between people, especially with the infighting in the movement. A lot of people do not trust organizations. They feel like, okay, they're just here for the money, for the funding, donations. But we are doing the opposite. We are providing the funding to the activists. So it takes time to build the trust. It takes some time for them to understand that we are this sort of an organization. So yeah, I think I would totally focus on building the relation and trust with activists.
Such an important point, Stuti. Thank you so much. I do believe relationship building is crucial for volunteer engagement, and it's often overlooked, right, due to time or resource constraints. But what we forget is that it doesn't always have to be a lengthy process. It can even simply be like regularly checking in with the volunteers or implementing a buddy system of sorts, in place to invoke a sense of community among the volunteers. So yeah, definitely agree with you there. So we also have with us Saundarya today from Vegan Outreach. So yeah, Saundarya, if you could just give us a quick introduction about yourself and what you do at Vegan Outreach.
Hi, I'm Saundarya Ganeshan. I'm working as a campaign specialist at Vegan Outreach. I manage Green Tuesday Initiative campaign, which is run by Vegan Outreach in India and also Vietnam. So, Vegan Outreach in India manages different kind of campaigns. First, foremost campaign is 10 Weeks to Vegan. So, for 10 Weeks to Vegan is actually a 10-week long program. We outreach to colleges in India through different resources. We actually connected with Ministry of Youth and Welfare to reach out to the NSS units in college and to conduct webinars and programs for the 10 Weeks to Vegan program. And once the webinars are over, students are given the opportunity, like after awareness, they are given the opportunity to sign up for the 10 Weeks to Vegan program, where we provide emailed resources like a week on week basis. They'll be given enough resources about like, menus, recipes, and their motivation for trying vegan and what is happening in the vegan environment, like on day to day, what are the new things that is coming up. So enough resources that to keep them motivated and also help them throughout their journey. So that is one of our biggest program, and we have also FPH, Food, Planet, and Health webinars that we organize. So these are like awareness webinars, and we focus on three major initiatives like how food is affecting our health, our planet, and environment, and whole like the interconnection between these three events. And third program is like a Green Tuesday initiative. It's a campaign that we work with educational institutions and also companies, corporates in India. We started this in like 2018, and it's been like 5 years since we started this. We currently we have a footprint in India and Vietnam for Green Tuesday initiative. More than like 50 companies and educational institutions have collaborated with us to implement Green Tuesday initiative, where like they take up plant-based food policies inside their campus and implement it. Like for one day in a week, they go completely plant-based. And the main mission of the campaign is to give them awareness and also at the same time create an impact, environmental impact, and also how it is positively affecting the health and well-being.
Incredible. So, Saundarya, you mentioned that you do work with colleges in India. So, from your experience, like, what are some of the tips that you can share with our listeners who are working on an institutional outreach to make their work more effective?
Simple tips would be there are resources open resources available for everyone to reach out nowadays. Like let it be the social media pages, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, it can be, or like there are sources like NGOs in India are doing outreach on a day-to-day basis, everyday basis on ground and also online. After COVID, the outreach scenario has totally changed. People who are doing only public outreach in like on ground, we also have a footprint both online and offline. So that there are very much open resources and people who are ready to speak and help you with to the journey. So educational institutions can directly reach out to us. They can find us anywhere. Normal Google search will actually take them to us. And one more thing that we would like to is for educational institutions, if they are trying to do something, any step that they wanted to take, make it one. It's not that they have to change the complete scenario. The entire college or institute have to take a step. It's just one step at a time. Any small changes that they are bringing inside an institute will have a huger impact. So it will impact like thousands of minds and thousands of conscious people making decisions.
Yeah.
So that is one way of looking at it.
Thanks, Saundarya. That's very helpful. So Siddharth, I think the same question for you, since you engage a lot with school students. From your experience, what are some of the strategies that you found useful when it comes to interacting with students?
So a very friendly, interactive approach with the students, where you build a rapport first. You do not look like somebody who is coming to question everything, but first you build that rapport with them. You give examples, you make it interactive, you ask them questions, and when you are able to invoke their empathy, that okay, in this situation, what would you do? Would you prefer this or that? And when they're involved in that and they understand that okay, with visuals, with graphics, that what would they prefer, they would automatically come to this logical conclusion that not using animal product is the only ethical position. So this is how one should, I believe, this is working for me. So one can apply this. At the same time, getting a session is a different ball game, where I feel if we directly tell the school administration or the college administration that this is what you're gonna speak, the chances are a little lesser that they would give a session. So one can use other terms like, I want to talk about climate change. I want to talk about animal agriculture and how it is impacting the climate. I want to talk about greenhouse emissions, carbon footprint, um, all these things. So this would help getting sessions, I believe.
Thank you, Siddharth. Again, you've raised a very important point about the need to make conversations more intersectional in nature to be able to effectively drive the message home. All right, so for the next few minutes, I would like to pivot the conversation a little bit. We have Chintan with us today. Chintan, before we started recording, you mentioned that you've previously worked with organizations in the CSR space. So I'm curious to know your thoughts on the current funding landscape for the vegan movement in India.
Hi, so I'm Chintan and I am from Mumbai, India, and I've been vegan for about 14 years now. I've been into animal welfare sector for almost 20 years now. Yeah, so initially animal welfare movement or animal rights movement basically has been mostly been funded by individuals and HNIs. Recently we have seen a little bit of trend coming up in CSRs as well, those which are led by individuals who are compassionate towards animals because of their companion animals maybe at home, or they're just generally more compassionate towards animals. So there is a little bit of trend growing now with the corporates, the CSR, the compulsory CSR law also coming in from last 10 years. Plus a lot of individuals now also using these things for the sustainability practices, saving water and other things as well. So I think there's a bit of receptivity I see, and the trend growing in corporates funding for animal welfare or animal rights related work. But I think there is still a lot more scope there to increase this.
Thank you, Chintan. So for all of our listeners, a quick plug-in. At the Capacity in Animal Protection Coalition, along with the Farmed Animal Coalition at AFA, we will soon be releasing a report on the capacity and funding landscape of the Asian farmed animal movement. So if you'd like a sneak peek, you can visit our website and find it on the reports page. All right. So continuing with our conversation, Chintan, we are here at the Vegan India conference, and of course, we see a mix of NGOs and businesses. So, in your opinion, what unique gaps do these groups fill within the vegan movement?
Okay, so I have been in the corporate side also, and I've been in the NGO sector as well, NGO side as well. So I believe there is a role to play for each of the parties, like for-profit and not-for-profit, because not-for-profit, they would of course do their awareness, activism, and create more aware people and vegan people. But if they are going vegan and they do not have alternatives, or they do not have their taste buds being taken care, then there will be a problem. So the plethora of options available nowadays in the market, with all the alternative cheeses to everything, all the mock meats and everything, that is fulfilling that basic need of food or taste for people, which also is inspiring a lot of people to go vegan. And I think that is a very, very, very important thing needed by the for-profit sector, which cannot be provided by the not-for-profit sector. So I think both of them have a role to play, and it's an ecosystem. And there are individuals also who play a role, like we have individual activists, we have people who are individually also helping animals in many ways and also creating awareness. So I think there is a lot of role to play by all the parties involved.
Perfectly put. Thank you so much, Chintan. So with that, we'll step into the last segment of this podcast with probably the most exciting and also the most obvious question. What are your hopes for the future of the vegan movement in India? Naomi, we can start with you.
So one of my favorite quotes is by Neil deGrasse Tyson. We are all connected to each other biologically, to the earth chemically, and to the universe atomically. And so because we're all connected, and I think Earth systems are sort of interconnected with the whole climate change issue, and what we're learning about biodiversity, how food production will be impacted, etc., how there's so many women working in the farming, in the food production, etc. I feel like the whole vegan movement is so much more than just a movement for animals. I think that it's a movement for women. It's a movement for the underprivileged. It's a movement for farmers. I think there's so much opportunity that people haven't realized, and that excites me. And I feel like this is a solution, even going forward, even to adapt to climate change. I think the vegan movement will play a big role. So, or rather, the lifestyle will play a big role. So that's what keeps me interested.
Very beautifully put, Naomi. And thank you so much for raising the issue of farmers. I think India being an agricultural country, it becomes all the more important for us to take the farmers along, as you very rightly put it, because a movement like ours, a vegan movement which is so dependent on food transition, cannot be sustainable if we do not take the farmers along. So thank you so much for putting it out there. So coming back to the question, like, what are some of the changes you'd like to see in the movement in India in future?
Well, I can only hope that it gets more strategic. While I went vegan for emotional reasons, and while most people do things based on emotion, I do hope that we learn to separate emotion from when we are acting, and that we act in a more, I don't like to say the word marketing based way, because that sounds like we're selling something, and that's really not the sort of feeling that one wants to give with respect to the vegan movement. But we do need to realize that people's minds respond to certain behaviors and certain prompts, and when we are trying to convince or persuade or reach out to somebody, that we're putting ourselves in their shoes, and we're trying to meet them halfway, and that it's about them and not about us. And the last thing I'd want to say is to other vegan activists is veganism isn't about vegans. We are just the facilitators of the movement. Veganism is about animals. And I think that is something that really helps, is for us to focus on the fact that it's about the animals and not us.
Thanks, Naomi. Stuti?
I think I definitely do have hope for the movement in India, because hope is what keeps us going on a daily basis. So that's something I'm dearly holding on to for the animals and for their sake. And I also have hope because I see so many events happening, and I see all these dedicated, passionate individuals coming to these conferences, coming to these animal rights marches that we see being organized, coming to any meetups which organizations like Why We Care are organizing. And there's never a low participation. So that is what gives me hope, because we see that people who are actually dedicated and passionate, they will, by hook and crook, make time. They will take the efforts to ensure that they attend these events. You will see them networking with so many people. And, that was one of the reasons why they did approach me as well about, what We the Free can provide them with and how we can help, how we can collaborate. So I definitely see potential for growth within India. And the last couple of years, I think, are also proof of it, because it went from maybe like 5 vegans in India to 10 vegans in India to 50 to 1,000 to the large number that we have today, that there are more than 25 cities who have an active group, whether it is small or big, but they do have an active group that is doing activism there. So I definitely do have hope. And for organizations and nonprofits or NGOs, I think the most that we can do for activists is try and understand what their needs are and see if we are able to meet any of their needs in a way that it is a lasting collaborative relationship, because we depend on them, they depend on us. So the best way is to work out a way that works for both of us. And I feel that communication and transparency are key to it. No matter who we are associated with, everybody loves to have a clear communication to know what is going on. So even with activists, I think there may be certain expectations that we may not be able to meet, but it's always better to tell them that I'm sorry, I don't think we will be able to do this, rather than telling them, oh yeah, I think we will, and then go ahead and say that, oh, it didn't work out. So I think that is something that we can definitely do, and maybe we can have more conversations with them to understand what are their needs, and maybe what we are doing is not working out in their favor right now, but is there something that we can tweak, we can modify, and then it will be a better fit for both of us. So just trying to put ourselves in their shoes and seeing what we would look at, and knowing where we are as an NGO or an NPO, and then looking at the expectations, I think that would really be helpful.
Great. Siddharth, what about you?
So I'm pretty hopeful from the vegan movement that India is witnessing. I think as compared to say 10 years back, veganism was a very niche movement. Now it has come to the forefront. As much as it is being misunderstood by some sections of the society, a lot of activists and their efforts, people are also understanding its truer meaning. That is not consuming animal products because animals are being hurt, and not any other secondary, every other benefit or every other reason, I would say, is valid but is secondary. So I do see a lot of things are happening, and I am hopeful. This conference, I saw a lot of brands which are being built and which are giving an alternative to the many food items that we all love to eat, and general public which may not have a lot of affinity for animals, but when they do get alternatives, they would want to switch to those plant based alternatives, and it would eventually support the movement.
Thank you, Siddharth. And with that, we'll wrap up this super insightful episode. I really want to extend a huge thank you to all of our incredible guests for taking out the time despite the hectic schedule of the conference, and speaking with me, sharing their insights and experiences with us today. Your dedication and passion for the vegan movement in India and actually globally are truly inspiring. And for all our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, stay tuned for a new episode next week. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. You can find everything you need to know about our work and connect with us at asiaforanimals.com. Tune in for the next episode. Asia for Animals Coalition, a united voice for Asia's animals.